Some of my favorite movies of all time are considered kids' films. It is true that most animated films in the US are targeted towards a younger audience. These films, in many ways, are for kids. But no one should make judgments on the quality of a film because of who it's marketed towards. We should judge every film by its own merits, regardless if it's a children's film or not. Now, let's talk about Despicable Me 4. Illumination doesn't have the best catalog of films. In fact, with the exception of the first Despicable Me, every other film of theirs that I've seen has been a 5 out of 10 at best. And Despicable Me 4 was once again another dud. Put simply, this film is a waste of time. The Gru in this film is not the same from the original. None of the characters you care about are given anything meaningful to do. I'm going to go through the plot really quick, try to spot some problems as I describe the details. The beginning of the movie starts with Gru arresting Maxime Limal. The next scene explains that Maxime Limal has escaped from prison and has now sworn revenge on Gru and his family. Of course, the AVL, that is the Anti-Villain League, moves Gru and his family to a safe house. But unfortunately, they are found out because Gru helped steal a honey badger from his old school that has a tracker in its collar. The final fight happens and Gru wins. That would be the end of the plot, but before the movie closes, we are subjected to a dance battle in prison where Maxime Limal and every other villain is being held. Then the movie stops. Praise the Lord. Guys, I need you to understand how much this movie doesn't need to happen. There are a series of scenes about the AVL turning 5 minions into superheroes who go on a whole Incredibles arc and turn the public against them. I thought it was horrible enough that the film wasted so much time with them, but I thought at least they would come to Gru's aid at the climax and save the day. But they don't. They aren't needed to stop Maxine. They don't need to be in the movie. The next set of time-sucking scenes is with Lucy. The AVL decided it best for her safety to get her a job in public, away from Gru and her children. So she becomes a hairdresser, which is illegal without a license, by the way. And this leads to her melting someone's hair off and later fighting her in a supermarket. Literally nothing comes from this, and it only serves to pad runtime and attempt to make you laugh. There are more unnecessary scenes with Gru going out of his way to talk with his neighbors, eventually getting an invitation to a tennis match at a public country club away from his children. And because there's totally not a murderous maniac after him and his family, Gru jumps at the opportunity. There is one more segment of the plot that I'd like to go over in more detail. Remember when Gru helped steal a honey badger from his school that led to him and his family being found by the antagonist? Why would he ever do such a thing? Well, let me tell you, this film in its brilliance decided it needed to introduce another character for us. New characters can be great, I'm just mad because the movie wastes all the characters from the other films. This young girl, Poppy, is their neighbor's daughter. She wants to become a great villain like Gru was. She blackmails Gru to help her steal the honey badger. You might think that forcing Gru to risk his life and potentially his wife and children's lives is very evil. But in her defense, she doesn't know anything about Maxine, because Gru never tells her. It's like he wants to put his family in danger. The plot is full of unimportant filler that I really wish I didn't have to sit through. There are so many problems, it's crazy. The biggest being that the Anti-Villain League is retarded. Every decision they make is horrible, and eventually it ends up killing people. I'll get to the comedy later, but spoilers, the biggest joke is the plot. It's getting a 2 out of 10. Now, on the characters, which this movie hates for some reason. Gru is an absolute moron, and his wife Lucy isn't too much better than he is. Remember that whole quest to steal a deadly honey badger? Yeah, he takes his infant son with him. Imagine Peter B. Parker with Mayday, but instead of it being a Spider-Man with superhuman reflexes, it's Gru. And instead of a child with superpowers, it's a normal baby that would die if it rolled off a table. I cannot stress how frustrating it is to see the man who risked his life for the kids he knew he didn't deserve. now seemingly trying to endanger them. Let's just move on and talk about one of the only two other characters that matters, which is Maxime Limal, voiced by Will Ferrell. This would be his third voice acting role, all three of which have been villains. It's very odd hearing him play this clown of a character when he voices the main character in my favorite movie of all time. I really shouldn't comment too much on his voice acting here, because I believe my frustration with the character is seeping through to the acting, and right now I strictly want to focus on the character. Did I mention that he's a cockroach-human hybrid? How did that slip my mind? Oh, I know, because it's not important to the plot at all. What does matter is that he has a gun that turns people into cockroach-human hybrids that are mind-controlled by him. This seems like an instant win gun. You can just use it on everyone. But because this movie is allergic to characters with IQs in the double digits, he only uses it on a gas station employee and Gru's baby. Maxime's basically always been a villain, but after getting arrested by Gru, he threatens to kill Gru when he escapes and later kidnaps Gru's son and was going to raise him as his own. As angry as I am about every decision he makes throughout the film, I will admit it is nice to get a villain with a simple revenge motivation who is willing to kill. I guess I'll talk about Poppy next. Her character actually functioned correctly. It helps that she's a kid and she doesn't know that Gru is being hunted down and his family is in danger. She doesn't have anything close to a character arc, but she functions well in the story and makes reasonable decisions. She was the best part of this movie, and it wasn't even close. Characters is getting a 3 out of 10. Now let's talk about some comedy. There are some people who will only judge a film on whether they thought it was funny or not. So they might watch this movie, think it's funny, and then say it's good. Of course, comedy is extremely subjective. However, many jokes in this film are set up in such a way that it hurts the plot and its characters. It's hard for me to laugh at Lucy melting someone's hair off when the anti-villain league made a horrible decision to put her there in the first place. And she had to make a decision to leave her children as well. This is why it pains me to say it, but the comedy that came from the Minions was the best in the film. Although it was horrible, most of the slapstick-style comedy was simple and didn't ruin too many characters. That being said, I only laughed once and I can't remember what the joke was. The comedy is getting a 3 out of 10. Are there any redeeming qualities to the film? Not really. The animation was alright for Illumination, but if you compare it to pretty much any other studio's recent films, it's of a very lesser quality. There was no attempt at a moral message. I usually like some themes and morals in my stories, but on the other hand, I wouldn't want them to try and to mess it up. So in summary, the plot was a joke, the characters were hollow shells, and the comedy shot the film in the knee. Despicable Me 4 is getting an evil 3 out of 10. I honestly would have been more upset at the film if I liked the other ones way more than I do. With Kung Fu Panda 4, I had very high hopes because I really loved the first two movies. That's why when Kung Fu Panda 4 happened, I got really mad. If you were interested in seeing what it looks like when I really don't like a movie, you can click right here and watch my Kung Fu Panda 4 review. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.
What the heck are you talking about, Shifu? Why does Po have to stop being the Dragon Warrior? Why does he have to appoint a successor? There wasn't a Dragon Warrior when Po was chosen. Why does there need to be one now?